So let me see if I have all of the pieces here in the form of a complex compound tense question for you. How does a gentleman who is working in Oklahoma who played soccer collegiately in Utah end up playing for a team based in Tonga that was playing in Samoa, chasing after a Champions League spot in Oceania? Did I miss it?
We're almost spot on, and some very, very small changes. The first one, just moved headquarters from Oklahoma back to Utah.
Okay.
So Custom Athletics was born in Utah in 2019, moved headquarters to Oklahoma in 2021, and just moved back last summer. So we're now back in Utah. Didn't play collegiately. Some members of the team did. Okay. I played in high school. I set my high school record for most goals scored and played competitively through there, and then have taken quite a few years off. But several of the teammates did, and on the broadcast with the Champions League broadcast, they mentioned several times that all of us had played together in college in Utah, so that's probably where that's coming from. But I think that they were just trying to hype us up a little bit more. But no, this has been a crazy adventure. I mean, since I was really little, I've had this dream of being a professional athlete, like probably anyone who's ever kicked a ball or thrown a ball or whatever. And unfortunately, those dreams die pretty fast. And I had this crazy opportunity to go and play, and it was kind of born with me actually being an alternate player, which is a little bit behind the scenes. So I am also the owner of Custom Athletics. We are the sponsor of the Tonga Football Association, also the Fiji Football Association, and I can't say who yet, but be excited. There's another one coming soon. So that's also really exciting.
What you're saying is you're going to put me in the poorhouse for Festivus gifts, Riley. That's what you're
saying. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. And we can jump back into these jerseys as well, but I'd love to get to how I ended up playing on this team with this crazy, all these lines all over the map, which is so crazy. Yeah, so I have this connection with Tonga football that, I mean, I can talk for hours about where this connection came to with Tonga football and how amazing this association is. And my good friend Mike Lomu, who's really the one that's been the driving force that has put Tonga football on the map. He's also a national team player, plays for Nuku'etulu FC. He lives here in Utah. He is amazing. If you don't follow his story, for all these listeners, you need to look him up because he's absolutely incredible. So I got brought in because Mike was recruited by the owner, Lafaele Moala, and his wife, Tommy, who started Nuku'etulu FC in 2017, and within now 8 years or 7 years from the time they started their club to won the league in Tonga. Their goal was 10 years and they did it in 7, which is kind of crazy. And also another note is Nuku'etulu FC is only in the 50 years of Tonga Football League, they're only the 3rd team to ever win. So they are beyond underdogs, and it's absolutely incredible, the story that they've been able to create this club and take it to this level. But because of my connection with Tonga football and our jerseys, Mike reached out to me and asked if we'd be willing to sponsor the club. And this hasn't been part of our sponsorship with the Tonga Football Association, but he put together a great pitch, and it was really exciting. And the selling point for me was really a lot of the same selling point of outfitting the national team is Nuku'etulu FC had been wearing the same jerseys for 7 years since they started the club. And they have one home kit that all 20 players wear on game day. After the men's team ends their game, they take off their jerseys and hand it to the women's team. They play their game, they take off the jerseys and hand it to their youth team. So these jerseys have been recycled, and that's not unique to this club. That's how every club in Tonga is. Where here in America, sometimes we share jerseys because a kid forgets his or something, or it gets destroyed in the washing machine there. It's because they can't afford multiple kits. And to be a part of this historic club to make jerseys for them was really exciting. So I came on making jerseys with no expectations of playing. That was never on the radar. And then as I talked to Mike more, he mentioned that Nuku'etulu and the other clubs that are in the tournament in the OFC Champions League are allowed 3 international players that have no relation to OFC or to Tonga. Just like any professional team around the world, you see that in the Premier League. these teams have players from all over the world. So it's not unique, but no Tongan team has ever done it. And this was a really big push to help grow Tonga football, make them more competitive, things like that. And because of this, there's a man named Garrett G. He's a member of the Bucket List family. He had just posted on social media that they had bought a private island in Tonga called Monu Island, here on my jersey right here. So Mike Kelly does this crazy thing and cold calls Garrett, sends emails and DMs and everything. And because Garrett is the one who played collegiately at BYU, extremely talented and accomplished player. But that was also 15, 16 years ago. But he reached out to Garrett to help bring publicity, bring competitiveness to the team. Garrett says yes, and if he can sponsor the club. And that's super exciting because I'm jumping all over the place here, but the awareness that Garrett and the Bucket List family in Monu Island have brought not only to Nuku'atulu FC, but all of Tonga football is absolutely incredible. We've been able to sell lots of fan jerseys, and that money goes straight back to Tonga football, things like that. So what he's been able to do, Mike Kelly to bring in Garrett and things like that, has been awesome. Garrett's lifelong best friend, Morgan, who's also an amazing player, scored a goal in the Champions League. He was brought in with Garrett. That was one of his things, like, I'm happy to play, but I need to bring a friend with me. And so he brought Morgan, who is an absolute baller. And so it was great to have both of them on the team. And then there was a third spot. And Mike Kelly put out this post on social media that they were looking for this player. So we had dozens and dozens of players around the world submit tapes and CVs, and it was amazing. And there were some really, really talented players that sent in their videos and things like that. And one of the struggles that I've already talked about is just funding in Tonga football. And the cost to bring in a player is about $3,000 to the club, which here in America, if you're a club or a collegiate or a professional player, like that doesn't seem like much. But in Tonga, that's a month's wage. Like it's, or way more than a month's wage. Like it's very, very expensive. So the player that comes in would have to pay their own way and do all these things, which all the international players had to do. And we found an awesome player who got recruited, who did it. And then the way that there's a little bit of miscommunication with OFC and Nuku'atulu FC and the international players. And the deadline that we told the players they would hear back by passed. So the player that was actually chosen to play on the team, he wasn't told yes or no until about 3 weeks after he was told he would be told. And that's the same with all, I believe we had 45 or 50 players that had sent in tapes. And this is, I mean, there are a few issues with Nuku'atulu, this being their first time qualifying for this tournament, not understanding exactly how many international players or how it works with passports and things like that. These are all things that will be nailed out in the future. But unfortunately, this time it just took too long. And by the time he was told, he's like, well, I thought I didn't make the team because you didn't tell me. And now I've already accepted a new job. I can't make that window. And because you have to, I mean, it's an unpaid position. You have to take off your life for 3 weeks to travel to the middle of the Pacific, away from your family, things like that. It's extremely difficult, but it's an amazing opportunity. So there is like this give and take balance. And so by this time, he thought he hadn't made the team. He was told he had, and they had 1 day to submit the players, passports, to submit payments, things like that. And they didn't have time to bring in a new player to remake that decision. And so that's where I came in. And I'm like, well, I know I'm not the best player, but I would love to play. I'm a very good player. I'm not as good as him. Obviously, he got chosen. But if you need another player, I would love to come play. So that's how I got onto the team as a very last-minute reserve player. I know there's lots of great players in the country. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. This was my pro debut and retirement, unfortunately. So grateful, and it was absolutely insane. But we had about 12 hours to decide who that last player would be, and there wasn't enough time to bring another international player. Those spots were already blocked by OFC, so they couldn't bring in another Tongan player. There wasn't another option for another player, so I'm so grateful that they said yes and let me go and be a member of the team. So that's how I went from Utah to just making jerseys and having this great relationship with Tonga football. I've played competitively my whole life, and then getting this wild chance where this amazing player who I hope decides to submit a tape in the future because he is absolutely incredible to play. But that's how I went from being not even on anyone's radar to being on NoFo FC and making my professional debut. Kind of crazy, super grateful for the opportunity. And yeah.
It was 3 matches in a week. It was the first one was up against Tupapa Mararenga. Then you had to go Saturday, Tuesday, and you go up against Pago Youth. Then you go Tuesday, Friday, and you wrap things up against the Vivasa Thai. And it was the round robin idea in the OFC Champions League. These 4 teams, and then the winner advances to the next stage. What was it like for you to be on this roster in this environment, in your called shot, your one and only, to see the game in a different way from what you've been able to see it grow like in the United States? Obviously, it's one of those fish out of water things where it's like I'm traveling halfway around the world. I get to be on this roster. I'm helping them grow through promotion and such. But what was it like for you to see how it's growing a half a world away when you were a part of this?
Yeah, great question. I remember that probably 2 or 3 days before our first match against Tupapa, and we had finally had the whole team together. We were in Samoa in training camp, and we were just doing simple drills. And our defender Vaki was defending me, and the ball just went up really high, and we went up for a header against each other. And that was my welcome to OFC moment, where my Tongan friend, who's absolutely huge, and we just went up and hit shoulders together, and I just went flying. And so we think about like rugby in the Pacific and how strong those guys are, and the soccer football players are just as strong. And so that was like a really eye-opening moment. Like we don't think about, obviously, the best teams in the world, Argentina, Brazil, England, things like that. And the Pacific nations really get left behind when it comes to people thinking about how talented they are. And that is just completely off. These kids are so strong and so talented. And my welcome moment when I got this awesome shoulder, that was what really opened my eyes. So when I hit the field against Tupapa, I was a little bit more prepared, but again, that was only like 3 days before that we'd been in training camp. So that was really exciting. But they are strong and they're fast, and I got to share the field with the best players I've ever been on the field with. It was an amazing opportunity. Football in the Pacific is growing really fast, and a lot of that comes from awareness and kids who worship these rugby players and want to play rugby. But there's a lot more opportunities in football, especially in Tonga. And so hopefully as they continue to grow and win games and things like that, and they start at a grassroots level with kids really wanting to play football, hopefully it just continues to improve and they start to win more. And I mean, it's great with like the World Cup format changing to being 1.5 OFC countries instead of just half a spot. So there's actually hope for the first time for these nations to qualify and play on a global stage, but also for clubs like NoFo who never would have dreamed that they'd be in the Champions League and then are now winning after just their 7th year after they started their team. So sorry, I'm going a little crazy with your question, and I don't remember exactly what you asked, but football in the Pacific's amazing. All 3 teams that we played against are so talented. It was great to see them bring in their international players and their style of play. I'm disappointed that we didn't win, and I feel like NoFo will be back and will be really strong the next time that they qualify.
Have you ever considered, ever since you've been back in like the 10 days since you've been back here in the United States, are you thinking about going back and catching up with the club and in country and with the outreach that you now have with the relationships when it comes to outfitting in Tonga and Fiji? Have you thought about going back and maybe, hey, anybody got any pickup opportunities? I'll come back out, do a little business and play a little pickup. Have you thought about going back?
Yeah, absolutely. The goal is to visit at least one of my national teams a year in person. So last year, I was fortunate enough to go to the 2017 or the under-17 World Cup in Qatar to support the Fiji boys as their inaugural tournament. And that was absolutely amazing. And this year I got to go to Tonga and Samoa to network, not just with the club team, but with the association to talk about goals in terms of kits. We have some really exciting news coming this year. We're going to be outfitting all 10 of the top flight teams in Tonga
Nice.
So, like how I mentioned, Nuku Tulu has had the same jerseys for 7 years. That's the same for all the teams. Some of them even longer. And now all of them are going to get brand new kits for the men's teams. Next year, we're going to outfit all the women's teams. And then instead of them having to recycle 10-year-old jerseys, it'll just be 2 years, and those will be given to the youth clubs. And then in 2 years, the men's team will get more. So it's really exciting from a grassroots level. All these teams will look very professional, have great kits. We're also really excited about the South Pacific Games in Tahiti next year. So we'll get to go and support those teams where all of our clubs, all of our countries will be competing, Fiji, Tonga, and our secret new friend. So that'll be a great opportunity to go and network and to support and cheer for all of these national teams in a beautiful country, Tahiti. Another really exciting tournament is coming up, hopefully this June. It was last October, but now it's June. The Marshall Islands Football Federation hosts an outrigger challenge for smaller football nations, and we're making a push to get Tonga invited to that. So hopefully having a Tonga men's national team in the U.S. for the first time ever would be really exciting. But any chance I have to get out to these amazing Pacific nations to be a part of football is a gift. I have a young family. I have a almost 2-year-old daughter, and I think that was the hardest thing for me about while I was living this dream. I am such a homebody, and like I don't do super well on my own. I'm really dependent on being with my wife and my daughter, and so just all this travel for her is so difficult. But hopefully she can come with us to Tahiti next year while we go support our teams, and any chance I have to get out to the islands, whether it's me or a liaison or things like that, to grow football there. And then, of course, we have all these amazing jerseys that we sell and are able to do that have never been available to the public before. Anything we can do to grow football in these nations is really a gift.
And full disclosure on two fronts. As you are looking over camera right, you'll see over my left shoulder that we have the Marshall Islands. We are the partner. We are partnering with the Marshall Islands as a part of their campaign.
Awesome.
So this is the scarf that you can pick up to support the federation. So we're on the tag for the Marshall Islands scarf. So we know of which you are trying to do. And the second full disclosure, when I realized that you were outfitting the outfitters, yes, I have my Tonga hat, and I also have my Nuku T-shirt. So
awesome.
I have my Nuku T-shirt that is a part of the whole thing, and the Tongan jersey. So no, I have already, knowing what you, Riley, were trying to do and what you're trying to do and help grow the game. Look, I'm a gear guy. So for me to pick up a hat, a T-shirt, a scarf to sit there and, in some small way try and keep the lights on, I know it pales in comparison to what you are trying to do and what you're doing with Tonga and Fiji and your soon-to-be announced new friend there in that particular part of the world. But why? I mean, was it just the association and having friends upon friends, or was this something that you had your eye on? It's like, yeah, in Oceania and in the South Pacific, there's a need here. How did that relationship start about, yeah, I think I want to jump into the deep end where this is concerned?
That's a great question. I've always been a huge fan of international soccer. Like, yeah, I support my club teams. I've been to a PSG game in Paris, so I like cheering for PSG. There's a different beast when the U.S. national team plays that I just go crazy for. And during the World Cup that I'm just such a huge fan. And when I started custom athletics, I had this crazy dream of being in a World Cup because I probably wouldn't make it as a player. So maybe there's another way where I could do it. And I started this push. There's another awesome company. Usually brands wouldn't shout out competitors or whatever. I love Jersey Bird. They posted in 2023 or 24 about a small deal they had with the Philippines where they made the Philippines a jersey. And it was absolutely amazing. And that lights flickered in my mind where I'm like, wow, I could actually do it because we're a lot like them. And so I started reaching out. I probably sent emails to 120 different football federations, just seeing if I could sponsor them. And I sent proposals, and it was a ton of work. And I got responses from maybe 4, the very first of which was Fiji. And that was in December of 2023 that they had responded. And because of that, Fiji has been such a special country to me, even if it didn't work out, just because of them willing to talk and trust a growing brand like Custom Athletics. And so we talked, and things didn't really go anywhere. They were going to the U20 World Cup in Colombia for their women's team for the first time ever. And so it didn't really progress, and they were really busy. And so our talks just kind of died out in March or so of 24. And in June of 24, I was living in a hotel in Virginia. We adopted my daughter in Virginia in 2024. And because of that, we're stuck in the state of Virginia. They wouldn't let us leave until all the lawyer stuff passed. And so we were stranded there for about a month. And while I was there, I kept reaching out to these national teams. And one of them who didn't respond was the Kingdom of Tonga. About 18 years ago, my grandparents were missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the Kingdom of Tonga. And because of that, the country has always been really special to my family. But that's about all it was. Eventually, I sent my email. No one responded. I love the Pacific because of that. And that's when I found my Kelly Lomu on Instagram, who just popped up as recommended. He was from Utah. He's Tongan. He posted this awesome video that said I sold everything I had, sold my business, and moved to Tonga to play in the World Cup. And I'm like, this is my dream. When I was like 15 years old, I'm like, man, if I lived in a small country, I could play on their national team. But I don't have any heritage other than American, which I'm so grateful for. But I saw his post, and I sent him a DM. And I'm like, this is what I'm trying to do. No one's responding. Do you think the association would be interested? He's like, yes, let me go and ask. He was at training camp for the World Cup at that point. He went into the office. An hour later, he texted me. He said, yes, they want more information. I sent them the full proposal. We had an agreement 2 days later. And then we had designs done about 3 days after that. And shout out to the Tongan designer. His name's Tali Huma. He's a tattoo artist. If you've seen the beautiful tribal Tongan tattoos, he was born in Tonga. Now he does tattoos in Salt Lake City. He has donated his time and his art to the Tonga Football Association. So the beautiful motifs you see on the jerseys last year and this year are all donated by Tali Homa to his motherland, which is absolutely stunning because it wouldn't make sense for me, a white guy, to draw these beautiful traditional motifs. So Tali drew these motifs in 3 days, sent them to me. We had designs done. They chose. We started production. And 3.5 weeks later, I was on a flight to Fiji to sign the contract in person with the Tonga Football Association just about 2 weeks before their World Cup qualifier matches in 2024. So it happened crazy fast. And it's a lot of because of my connections with my family and my grandparents to Tonga, but also because of Fiji being willing to respond to me. That made me love OFC even more. I've been watching every OFC. I watch every OFC match from U16 boys and girls to senior national teams. I love the Pro League. I love everything about OFC. But a lot of that is because of the Fiji Football Association giving me a chance and talking to me and just saying hello, really. But we made these beautiful jerseys for Tonga. They they should have won that first round of World Cup qualifiers. They had a heartbreaker. They were up 1-0 in the 88th minute. They conceded, went to extra time, and gave up a goal in the 110th minute to get knocked out. So absolute heartbreaker, but so proud of that team. And that was in 2024. Fast forward about 6 months, Fiji and I started talking more, and we were able to sign that contract. So that had been about 2 years in the making, where they signed that contract for the Women's Nations Cup in 2025. And in about 2 weeks, we'll be hosting World Cup qualifiers for the women's. So super excited for the Fiji Football Association, absolutely cheering for them and believing in them. But that's my connection to OFC, jerseys, national teams, sponsoring. When I went to sign the contract with Tonga, or when Mike Kelly went into the office to tell them what I wanted to give them, they were really confused. They're like, what do you mean someone wants to give us stuff? And we think about like the Germany national team, who I think just signed a contract with Nike for like $50 million a year or something absolutely crazy. And this amazing country, Tonga, didn't even know that there would be anyone that would be willing to give them jerseys. So not only are we Tonga's newest sponsor, we're their first ever official sponsor, the first ever custom jerseys that they've ever had that actually represents the nation, that players and fans are proud to wear. We're the first company to ever make Tonga jerseys widely accessible to the public. And that has now translated to Fiji as well. We're the first brand to have national teams for both countries available for purchase easily to the public in retail stores in their countries. It's all really exciting what we've been able to do. And then everyone who purchases a jersey, we're able to give a huge commission back to the associations. It's about 50% of the profit that goes back to grow football in Fiji and Tonga. And one of the things that I love about that is I've talked about like handing down jerseys from the men's team to the women's team. Think about like shin guards, where here in the US, when you forget your shin guards at home, you cut up a cardboard box and you stuff it in your socks because that's the only option. You have that pizza box. In Tonga, they do it because they can't afford their shin guards. So what we've been able to do with jerseys and this commission and fans, we've been able to sell jerseys to fans in dozens and dozens of countries all over the world. We just shipped one to Mongolia, and we've shipped to Brazil and Thailand and Switzerland and everywhere in between. In Africa, like these fans all over the world who are just crazy football fans that want to support these amazing nations to help grow football there. I want these fans to know that you do make a difference. Every jersey you purchase not only helps fund these associations, but it shows them that you believe in them, that you care about them. And I mean, obviously every jersey that purchased helps me to be able to sponsor them and help to give back more. So I'm absolutely love this crazy story of getting in with these national teams. And the goal is to be in the World Cup for all of them. And some people might say that sounds absolutely crazy or unrealistic, but with this new format change, between the men and women's team, there's hope for OFC, for Tonga, Fiji, and hopefully more of OFC. I mean, we have in just 2 or 3 weeks, New Caledonia will be playing Jamaica.
Yep. And
if they beat Jamaica and then beat the Democratic Republic of the Congo, we'll see New Caledonia represent OFC in the World Cup. And what that will do for New Caledonia is absolutely amazing. So there's hope for these countries in OFC, not just hope, but there's real possibility. And it might seem like it's just a jersey, but that's where it starts. So all the support is absolutely amazing.
And that is why, Riley Evans, we reached out, because we wanted to kind of get the rest of the story. We knew there was a part to it. We wanted to try to get more of the parts. I cannot thank you enough for this. I mean, obviously, with our coverage of Oceania, whether it's OFC Pro League that we've really hit hard this year or what's been going on in Oceania itself, reaching out to you, I'm glad we had the chance to kind of understand where you're coming from and where you're looking to go. Just know that we're going to be keeping an eye on things, especially when you introduce your soon-to-be named new friend, and we're looking forward to that as well. And I know that my credit cards are probably going to be smoking come November because of all of the investment that I will be making for Festivus gift from everything that you have been able to create over there at Custom. I can't thank you enough for doing this, my friend. It's been great for the education, and we'll be catching up with you soon.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you. Go Tonga, go Fiji, as we say there. Malo, Ofatu in Tonga, and Vinaka in Fiji.